Star Wars 7x7 episode 2552. So with Wave 2 of the High Republic Mega Storytelling Initiative officially launching today, I'm going to take a quick moment to update us on where we stand going into Wave 2. This is still a no spoiler situation, so don't worry about that. But this is basically what you need to know leading into the Rising Storm and Race to Crashpoint Tower. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So, Wave 1 of the High Republic Storytelling Initiative primarily was constituted of 3 novels. They would be Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland, and Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. There were also, a story arc of 5 issues in the High Republic by Marvel and the High Republic Adventures by IDW. There were also a couple of short stories, including First Duty and Go Together, right, in Star Wars Insider. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers just about everything in the High Republic Storytelling Initiative for Wave 1. If I'm missing something, let me know. But where we left things was with the events of the Great Disaster having been, dealt with, at least, just the initial epic disaster situation. Now we're in the cleaning up and helping the refugees situation and trying to get people back to something resembling normal on the planets that were affected by the Great Disaster, or recover and get back to something as near to what normal life might have been as possible. We are successfully launched with the Starlight Beacon. That whole space station is operational and floating out in the outer rim, and so everything is great with that. It has been fully dedicated, and yeah, it seems like the Nihil threat has been dealt with. At least the Republic and the Jedi think that it has, because of the battle that they had at the end of the Light of the Jedi, where the Nihil force showed up, but it was only really 1/3 of the Nihil force, and the Republic and the Jedi didn't realize that, and it ended up with Marchion Ro turning on one of his Tempest runners, one of the leaders of the 1/3 of the Nihil, and making their ships suicide bomb into a bunch of Republican Jedi ships. And so that whole Nihil threat seems to have been extinguished, but not really. And probably the 2 biggest things that are going to lead into Wave 2 as far as the Jedi go are the fact that Loden Greatstorm, who had been presumed dead after the events of Light of the Jedi by all the Jedi, is actually alive, had been captured by the Nihil, and is now imprisoned by Marchion Ro. That's not spoiler, that's from the end of Light of the Jedi. So yeah, so just know that that's valuable information to have. And also at the end of Light of the Jedi, Elzar Mann, who is another Jedi who had very strong feelings for Avar Kriss, who is the Marshal of Starlight Beacon. There's that whole situation that's gonna play a part in what happens forward too. That Elzar Mann has a terrible vision of absolute nightmare scenarios. He's just wandering around Starlight Beacon, and he's just struck by this vision of the future and by horrific things happening, people dying, Jedi dying, all this stuff. And what is that vision, and what does it mean for the future, and what's going to happen in Wave 2 of the High Republic Storytelling Initiative? Well, the good news is that, some answers will be coming. Meanwhile, we know from the High Republic Adventures, which we just talked about yesterday, that Marchion Ro has been on the hunt for some sort of ancient relic, which he says will change the face of the galaxy forever. So that's something else to keep in your head as we approach Wave 2. And as far as the Drengir go, well, where we left them, they were basically addressed in the Into the Dark novel by Claudia Gray, and then the High Adventures comic by Cavan Scott from Marvel, where the Drengir had been put to sleep and were just in this battle station and hanging out there. And there were these random idols that were there, and the Jedi misunderstood what was happening, thought that the idols were Sith idols or something like that, and that they were reading dark side energy off them, and pulled them out from there. But it turned out that they were sort of right. They were put there by Sith people to contain the Drengir, who they had not been able to control themselves, basically. And so by taking those idols out of there, the Jedi not only unleashed the Drengir, but one particular one that is referred to by the Drengir as the Great Progenitor, which is the Drengir from which all other Drengir have come. And so the Drengir that were in, hibernation for all intents and purposes, that were just kind of slumbering in seeds under the ground since the Great Progenitor had been put in hibernation by these Sith statues and whatever ritual the Sith performed around it. Well, they got woken up too once the Great Progenitor was turned loose. And so basically, the Great Progenitor is kind of the key to eliminating the Drengir threat, but who the heck knows where the Great Progenitor is now, because it's not on that space station anymore. Nobody knows where it is, and they have this whole telepathic root system that they communicate through, and they are very much aligned with the dark side of the Force and do kind of terrible things to people and suck their life energy out of them for their own food and so forth. And so the Jedi were able to defeat them by a link between the Trandoshan Jedi Master Skier and the Drengir, because it's through some weird alchemy that happened in the High Republic comic. Somehow the Drengir were able to possess Skier and gave him a new arm, a replacement for the one that he lost in the battle in Light of the Jedi. And through the help of a connection between him and Keeve Trennis, who is his Padawan, they were able to send a message through the telepathic root system of the Drengir to say that the particular meat that they were encountering with the Jedi, not only on this one particular planet, but also on Starlight Beacon, was poisoned and tainted and would actually make the Drengir sick. And so the Drengir retreated as a result. And so that's where, the Drengir threat stands for the moment. And so Wave 2 officially begins today with the release of The Rising Storm and Race to Crashpoint Tower. I'm still working my way through Race to Crashpoint Tower, so that will probably be coming as a review next week, hopefully, fingers crossed. Rising Storm we've already talked about in a non-spoiler fashion on the show, and in a couple of weeks we'll do a spoilery conversation about it so we can, really kind of sink our teeth into it, as it were. And then Out of the Shadows by Justina Ireland comes out later in July. And the High Republic series has already begun its Wave 2 situation, so I guess technically it's kind of launched June. No, actually, I'm sorry. I am misspeaking. It starts tomorrow. So the High Republic comic, issue 6, I think, comes out on June 30th. And then the High Republic Adventures will be coming out in July with issue 6, and that is the first of the Wave 2 stories for that one as well. And then, after that, I guess we will get to stories in Star Wars Insider magazine that will be more Wave 2 specific stories as well. But no word yet on how long Wave 2 will actually go. It does, if it's anything like Wave 1, we got 3 novels in Wave 1, and then we got 5 months worth of comics and 4 months worth of short stories, two-parters, right? And so, it seems like, that if that's the way that they're going to do it, then maybe that's a similar situation. It's not entirely the case though, because they've got that Edge of Balance manga that's coming also later in the wave, and I think there may be 1 or 2 others. So it sounds like it's going to be a bit of a bigger wave comparatively speaking, but just when they're gonna call the dividing line on it, don't necessarily know yet. But I would imagine it's probably, the end of this year, I would think, and that they would go into Wave 3 for 2022, just based on the fact that we are 6 months between, the start of Wave 1 and almost in the start of Wave 2. And that's what I've got for you launching into Wave 2 of the High Republic today with the launch of The Rising Storm and Race to Crashpoint Tower. And that is going to do it for this episode of the show as well. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.